So our first speaker of the night is Matt, and I have 3 fun facts about him. So he's been to Italy numerous times, but he still enjoys pineapple pizza. He must have a video game or music playing in the background to get any work done. And he has a fascination with New York City subway rats. Matt, come on up here and share your fuck up.
Hey everyone, thank you for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. It's been a while since I've done anything in person. So, hi, my name is Matthew. You can call me Matt or Marji. If you see me around, please say hi. I'm a regular fuck up, that's first and foremost. But second off, I'm a head of security at a company called Narvar, which is in post-purchase. Oh, this is gonna be nice. Okay, a quick about me. To the left, I'm the first one in the middle. My fuck-ups include eating a lot, and forgetting to wear a shirt. So there's that. I'm a bit of a goof. So in my letter from U of T, when I got accepted, I put myself as a reverend. I'm not a reverend, just so you know. I studied computer engineering there with, on the left, my incredible friends. A couple of them are here, so thank you for being here. I love you. And talking about love, my love of my life, Sabrina, and our dog, Cappuccino, also are a big part of me. So getting into it a little bit, I started off after computer engineering as a software developer, and I thought, okay, this is fantastic. Like, pictures on the left, which is one that I took a lot of time to set up properly and snap a picture of, is me in a nice cafe in Toronto, pretending to do coding work, but really it's buggy code on the left and me running it over and over again on the right side of the screen. That's why it looks the same. And in reality, if something's not working, such as Stack Overflow or Google, I'm probably calling it quits for that day. So software development for me was a little bit tough. I found it I was pretty anxious. There's a lot of programming languages, and there's a lot of kind of like things to keep up with. And for me, I kind of just found it hard to always be on the cutting edge. I never really felt like my code was good enough, so I decided to kind of move on from there and kind of go into entrepreneurship. Startups, were big, and I had some software background. But in short, the 3 startups that I worked on for a period of time all failed for numerous reasons, and I'd love to explain. So if you see me around and you have any questions about that, let me know. So entrepreneurship was a no, and I reluctantly went back into software development at a company called NortonLifeLock. So NortonLifeLock was actually, they acquired a company called Surf Easy, which is where I was working. Oops, let me go back. And I had some mentors there that guided me to become a security engineer. And security engineering is kind of cool. It's like trying to find fuck-ups in code and really exploiting those and looking at those areas. So I had fantastic mentors that really taught me what security engineering looked like, how to scan for them, how to prevent them, how to help engineers write better code. And for some reason, there are a lot of pictures of security engineers and hackers looking like this. Like, it's actually very uncomfortable to wear a mask in front of the computer, so I don't recommend it. We're just regular people in front of the computer. You wouldn't be able to pick us out from an audience. So I took a lot of the skills that I learned there to a company called Auth0. Auth0 is in the customer identity and access management space. If you ever logged in somewhere with Google or Facebook, etc., you may be using Auth0 or the company that purchased Auth0 called Okta. In this time, I did a lot of security learning. I was really curious. I just found a passion in it, and just not necessarily having to write code, but being able to try and find flaws or ways that code shouldn't be working. So took certifications and started to really learn, and we were doing some fantastic work at Auth0. It was a startup at the time that was essentially a rocket ship going through series after series of funding successfully, and really had a core belief in security. The security team there was 10 plus people. We were actually remote before remote was like a cool thing. So thank you to Auth0 for teaching me remote before COVID, which was really helpful. We were really starting to be ones to define things like security frameworks and being secure by design. And to get into that a little bit, Secure by Design is a way for us to think about how to build software and be preventative by introducing security measures early on, instead of when it's too late in the process and you either find a vulnerability and it gets out and people know of it, or it costs a lot of money to have to now go back into your code and make those changes. So I was feeling really confident at this point, and I was doing a lot of talks and really talking about Auth0 and how we're doing Secure by Design and how the product that we're building is secure first, and I was starting to feel really confident. And I've always had a knack for presenting and for speaking, so it kind of felt like a perfect match, and I really felt like I was finding my place. Like I finally found this thing that I really enjoyed doing, and I loved to talk about it and try and empower and teach others about what it was that I was doing and how you could do it for your organization. So I was building up this reputation, and for probably 2 years through the pandemic, I was doing talks on a regular basis. And this is essentially how I felt. I mean, it's either this or really I kind of felt like Steve Jobs. Like I had no problem like getting up on a mic and talking about security. So I was on top of the world. And in the background at Auth0, we were really starting to define a security framework that we wanted to start to share with others. Like here's the framework and here are the steps of how your company can be secure by design. These are the steps that you can take in your software development process and really at your organization as a whole to start to really consider security first. And so I thought, okay, this is the perfect timing for me to enroll myself in something called SneakCon. So SneakCon, if I can get to it. SneakCon is, let's just say, one tier under something like a DEF CON or a Black Hat that occurs like in Vegas. This is like one step underneath it. And at SneakCon, I got accepted to do a talk. And this was like the highlight for me, like the pinnacle. I was like, wow, I'm really doing this. And like, this is my time to shine now. Like this, and then after SneakCon, like DEF CON, you're next, baby. I'm ready. So I was all hyped up. And I was going to do a presentation called Secure by Design. Objectives in the mirror seem farther than they appear. And the idea behind the talk was, hey, I'm really excited about this, but I want to be really honest and transparent. Introducing and implementing security at a company is not easy. It's actually really painful. You have to do a lot of back and forth and find compromise, and the business needs and the security needs aren't going to always be together, so you're going to have to battle for change in process and requirements to have more security engineers or empower other engineers, right? Software engineers to learn this. And that's going to take time and effort. And so my talk was, hey, this is really hard, but it's not impossible. And I was going to use Auth0 and what I had learned as kind of like that playing field. Like, let me show you and let me tell you about our experience. Let me spill the tea on how we did it and where we're at so that you can try it and do it yourself. So I got my slides ready, and I was like, okay, this is great. I'm spilling the tea, but like I'm coming from like a vulnerable, honest place. This is going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I sent the slides to my manager, and if you've ever watched RuPaul Drag Race, my manager said, good luck, don't fuck it up. And that was it. She looked at the slides, said, yeah, okay, looks good. So we moved on. And one thing to note before SneakCon actually happened, again, fast-moving company, and I had built up this trust that, hey, Matt's going to do a presentation, no problem. Matt knows what he's doing. He's done hundreds of presentations so far, so shouldn't be a problem. So SneakCon came. I thought I smashed it out of the park. It went really well. It was probably the most attendees that I'd ever kind of presented in front of before. I think at the time, from my session, we were talking like over 1,000 people had checked in remotely. So it was fantastic. And yeah, in terms of metrics, there were more than 12,000 people with a lot of people in the chat, over 3,000. So it was pretty engaging. And there were some fantastic questions that got asked. And so I thought, yeah, this is really great. So there's something really important here that I want to know before we get into the next morning. Working remote, I got into this habit, which I think is actually a good habit, I turn off and disable my notifications. So like when it's 5 o'clock, you're not hearing from me. Unless it's an emergency and you call my phone, like I'm not gonna get a Slack notification or an email. Like it can wait until the morning. So it was pretty quiet that night. I thought, okay, great. I talked to my friends and family. I said, guys, I smashed this thing out of the park. This was fantastic, and I'm ready for the next one. So I go to sleep, and then the next morning rolls around, and my notifications start to roll in, and they look something like this. I hope you're ready for it. Oh, something like this. The notifications are from senior leadership, PR and media, of Auth0. I should probably know Auth0 at the time was also going through the acquisition process. So probably not so smart on my part. So the main message that I got was from a security leader that said, Matt, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there are a number of things that you shared that were very internal and open up risk and have shared the details of our inner workings. Please get on a call as soon as possible. We are here waiting. Talk to you soon. So I got on. So I took that message in, and obviously the first three things that I felt that you got a sneak peek of: shame, guilt, and anxiety. I went from feeling on top of the world to wanting to kind of curl up in a ball in the corner and never be seen again, and kind of thought like this was the last presentation I'll ever do because I don't want to feel this again. So I got on the call. I was super quiet. I totally understood their point of view, and a part of me thought like, man, how did you fuck this up so hard? Like you didn't even give it thought that like, from their shoes, how does this feel? Does it make sense to be sharing this level of information? So yeah, at that point, I was very apologetic, and I can very much understand their point of view. Thank you. So really at that point for me I was trying to kind of like learn from mistakes, and it wasn't easy. So the first thing I kind of decided to do was, you know what, I'm just going to think about like how does it feel to be in their shoes. And I started doing that, and I started having conversations with my manager and with teammates, and a lot of them were very understanding, and that's what I'm probably most thankful for. For them, they said, hey Matt, you know what? The angle that you were coming at, although questionable, I can very much understand if this was like an internal conversation or a chat amongst us as a team. It could be very understandable. And there was one moment where I was working on a security vulnerability. I was doing a write-up, and at this point, I should note, I avoided all types of talks by any means necessary. I just wasn't ready for it. I was working on a security vulnerability, and I just thought to myself, like, hey, the reason why I loved security and why I got into it was exactly this, in a sense. A security vulnerability is a fuck-up in code, and when you write up a security vulnerability, you're explaining what the fuck-up is, why it happened, and how to remediate it, how to mitigate it so that that particular thing doesn't happen again. And I thought, well, what if I just kind of like treated this as a security vulnerability? Like, I really messed up. There definitely was, some question to the confidentiality of the company, security vulnerability, and how do I remediate this? So I thought to myself, okay, I need to take this into practice and try this again. So what's really great that I should have explained on the slide before is we actually came up with a process, an internal process, where from here on out, we would start to do a dry run internally of every presentation twice. The slides would be reviewed by our team, and then leadership, and be approved. And then at that point, you'd be ready to go. So definitely some steps, but definitely a lot better than no steps at all. And so I think it was almost a year later, it was time for redemption. I said, you know what, I have to do this. I have to do this for myself. I have to do this to prove to myself that there's something that I really love, and just because I made a mistake, it doesn't mean that it's the end. It just means that I kind of have to adjust, and I have to learn from it. And so I decided to take on a topic that I was very comfortable with already, made some tweaks to it, and did it. it was at MapleSec for IT World Canada, and there were a couple hundred people there, and I felt so good after. And it wasn't about the number of people, and it wasn't really about the details. It was just that I did it, and it felt incredible. And this is really important. I love this, and I actually have this as my desktop background. I think for me, every hard thing, at least for me, every hard thing in the moment feels huge, and it feels like it's the end of the world. And then when I take a step back, or when, really as time passes, it feels a lot smaller. And that's how it really, when I think about this, how this really felt for me. At the moment, it felt like the end of the world, but as time went by, it definitely didn't feel that way, and it's just kind of something that I keep in my heart and I think about, that I've learned from. And so, more than that, I think what I learned for myself is I call myself a regular fuck up because I think that's the case. I fuck up on a regular basis, and what this particular experience taught me is if I stopped myself short of just after the fuck up, I'd probably be in a very different place than I am today. And I think I'm stronger for my fuck ups and trying to find a way to try again than to give up and just say this is it and I'm kind of done. So I'd say presenting today and kind of the presentations I've done ever since, I've definitely learned a lot from it, and I've learned, if anything, keep at it. Even if it takes some time before I get back in the game, I just felt like, you know what, with time, it will always be worth it. So, thank you.
That was awesome. Matt, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I think, I actually work with a lot of speakers, for Fuckup Nights, but also in my day job, doing field marketing. And there's some companies where it's the most simple webinar, or they're a panelist on something, and they go through a huge PR process to be able to agree to the opportunity and actually participate. And I feel like I never fully understood why. I'm you're just, we're gonna talk about these 3 questions, very simple. But now, thanks to you sharing this fuck up, I understand, and I'm gonna give a lot more time for that approval process. So yeah, I'd love to open it up for some Q&A. I'm sure you have some great questions for Matt. So Felipe from our team is gonna come to you, and just make sure to keep the question itself short so that we can get through as many as possible.
Hey, Matt, thanks for everything that you shared today. When you were going through the emotional journey of healing and going through that, what did you do yourself? What kind of things did you do with friends? How did you go through the healing process?
I think that's a great question. I think it's a very human thing. First and foremost, for me, is not going through it alone. I have this tendency just to be a little bit vulnerable, to want to go through things alone because I don't want other people to really know. I kind of feel ashamed. But I kind of learned more and more as becoming an adult that sharing kind of helps that healing process. And when you have people that are in your corner, they'll always find a way to understand. And that kind of, for me, kind of helps mend that hole that I was feeling at the time. Outside of that, if there are things that you do that kind of keep you up and motivated, for me, it would be, physical activity, not cutting it down because I feel down about myself, but if anything, trying to keep up with the current pace, to just keep everything else in motion, to not feel like this thing has overtaken my life. So I'd say, yeah, vulnerability with the closest people and doing the things that you love, continue to do them. As hard as it is at the time, find a way if you can to just keep doing those things. I hope that helps.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for sharing. I've got a question about, you set your sides to your manager. Did that come back when you got reprimanded and stuff? Did that also get dragged into it, or I'm just curious why that one little thing didn't raise any flags?
That's a fantastic question. So first and foremost, my manager was a ride or die. She kind of had my back no matter what, and I think we had built a trust relationship at the time where I'd send her over something. It would be a quick skim, and it would be okay, if there's nothing glaring, then let's go ahead. And I think we shared this commonality and this idea of trying to be vulnerable. I think there obviously were slip-ups across the board. So the particular like slide or slides in question, which by the way, good luck finding. It's been like wiped off the entire internet. You will not find it. I have like the only copy. But in short, it was kind of a mess up, and in a way, we kind of like a few of us took the blame for just the lack of process and that miss. Yeah.
Hey, Matt.
Hi.
So my question is around, did this experience, like the night after or the morning after, did it change you? Like, and like comparing yourself before that day and like where you are now, do you feel like you take on more risks or you're more open to like trying new things?
That's a great question. Inherently, as a person, there are a lot of things that I'm risk averse in, and things that I have more tolerance for risk. In public speaking, I've always had like that interest, the like nerves of it. I kind of enjoy, oddly enough. So after that night, I wouldn't necessarily say that as a whole things changed, but if anything, I think it's taught me. It's ironic because I'm in the security world. It's like taught me the idea of calculated risk. Like calculated risk means you're gonna put yourself out there and be vulnerable in something, but there are some steps you probably want to take ahead of time. And if anything, the morning after, that really taught me like calculated risk is really important, and that's why companies have sometimes diligent processes, because it's like you want to put yourself out there and want to trust somebody, but you kind of need to do some steps before that. So yeah, I'd say if anything, it taught me calculated risk.
Hey Matt, thanks for sharing your story. So after your incident, did it change the way you look at risk afterwards?
Yeah, it did. That's such a great question. It definitely did. I think I spent all this time calculating risk for these like bugs, but like I never really think about like how does this apply in my life? Like how do I calculate the risk of a particular thing that I'm going to do right now? And I think it really opened my eyes to kind of taking that same framework that I apply in work and I don't really think about outside of the confines of work, and start to apply it to life. Like, hey, if I decide to take this path, what are the risks associated with it versus this other path? So I've realized that like that process is now something that's just a part of my just like mind as I work through decisions that I make.
Okay, awesome. I think that's a good one to end off on. Matt, thank you so much again for sharing your story, and thanks for the great questions, everyone.
Thank you, Marji.